From the dawn of civilization, history has been forged in the crucible of conflict, shaped not by the masses, but by the will of a select few. These are the commanders, the strategists, the leaders whose genius, ambition, and audacity redrew the maps of the world. They were masters of the battlefield, architects of empires, and titans of their age. Their names echo through the corridors of time. Alexander, who wept for there were no more worlds to conquer. Caesar, whose legions carved an empire from Gaul to Egypt. Genghis Khan, whose horsemen thundered across continents, uniting the largest contiguous land empire in history. But what truly separated these legends from ordinary men? Was it sheer tactical brilliance, unwavering charisma, or a ruthless will to power? How did Hannibal, with his elephants and ragtag army, bring the mighty Roman Republic to its knees? What strategies allowed Napoleon, a minor Corsican noble, to crown himself emperor and dominate Europe? What were the pivotal decisions, the gambles, the strokes of genius that turned the tide of battle and altered the course of human destiny? Welcome to the Commander's Archive. Here, we don't just recount tales of conquest, we dissect them. We march into the minds of the greatest military leaders ever to live, analyzing their strategies, comparing their legacies, and uncovering the secrets behind their most decisive victories and catastrophic defeats. We will stand with Wellington at Waterloo, sail with Nelson at Trafalgar, and ride with Saladin into Jerusalem. Join us as we unlock the war chests of the past, explore the art of command, and understand the figures who commanded armies, conquered kingdoms, and built legacies that have endured for centuries. This is the ultimate chronicle of military leadership, the stories of triumph and tragedy, of strategy and sacrifice. This is the Commander's Archive. Subscribe now and let the campaigns begin. Imagine a world where a new message, delivered in the heart of the Arabian desert, reshapes civilizations and forges an empire stretching across 3 continents. This isn't fiction. This is the story of the Arabs. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're embarking on an epic journey, a 600-year saga from the 7th to the 13th century. We'll trace the incredible rise of the Arab world, from the revelations received by the Prophet Muhammad in Mecca, to the legendary leadership of Saladin during the Crusades. It all begins in the early 600s, in a land of scattered tribes and ancient traditions. A merchant named Muhammad from the city of Mecca begins to preach a message of monotheism, the belief in one God. This new faith, Islam, calls for unity, justice, and submission to God's will. It's a message that would not only unite the disparate tribes of the Arabian Peninsula, but also ignite one of the most rapid and expansive movements in human history. Following the Prophet's passing, his successors, the caliphs, took up the mantle. This was the era of the Rashidun, or the rightly guided caliphs. Under their leadership, the energy of this newfound unity and faith was channeled outwards. Driven by a combination of religious conviction, economic ambition, and political strategy, Arab armies swept out of the desert. Think about the sheer scale of this expansion. To the west, they confronted the mighty Byzantine Empire, taking control of Syria, Palestine, and Egypt, ancient lands that had been the bedrock of Hellenistic and Roman culture for centuries. To the east, they challenged and ultimately overcame the vast Sassanid Empire of Persia, one of the great powers of the ancient world. In just a few decades, an empire was born, stretching from the shores of the Atlantic to the borders of India. This wasn't just a military conquest. As these new territories were incorporated, a vibrant new civilization began to blossom. The Umayyad Caliphate, with its capital in Damascus, became the first great Islamic dynasty. They were brilliant administrators, adopting and adapting the bureaucratic systems of the empires they had succeeded. They built magnificent mosques, like the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem and the Great Mosque of Damascus, symbols of this new faith's permanence and power. Under their rule, the Arab world continued to expand. Their armies crossed North Africa, bringing the Berber peoples into the fold. And then, in a pivotal moment, they crossed the Strait of Gibraltar into Spain in 711. This established Al-Andalus, a center of learning and culture in Europe that would last for nearly 800 years. At the same time, their influence pushed eastward, deep into Central Asia, touching the borders of China. But as with all great powers, internal strife was never far away. In the mid-8th century, a revolution toppled the Umayyads, and the Abbasid dynasty rose to power. They moved the capital from Damascus to a new, purpose-built city, Baghdad. The name itself would become synonymous with splendor and knowledge. Under the Abbasids, the Islamic Golden Age reached its zenith. Baghdad became the world's intellectual capital. The House of Wisdom was established, a legendary library and translation center where scholars from all faiths and backgrounds gathered. They didn't just preserve the ancient knowledge of the Greeks, Persians, and Indians. They built upon it. Think of the contributions. In mathematics, Al-Khwarizmi developed algebra, his very name giving us the term algorithm. In medicine, doctors like Al-Razi and Ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna, wrote medical encyclopedias that were used as standard textbooks in Europe for centuries. In astronomy, they charted the stars with incredible precision, improving the astrolabe and building observatories. This was an age of science, philosophy, poetry, and art, fueled by a culture that valued knowledge and intellectual curiosity. However, this vast empire was difficult to hold together. By the 10th and 11th centuries, the central authority of the Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad began to wane. Regional dynasties emerged, each ruling their own territories, from Spain and North Africa to Egypt and Persia. The Fatimids, a rival caliphate, established their glorious capital in Cairo. The Seljuk Turks, converts to Islam, swept in from Central Asia and became the new military power in the Middle East, acting as the protectors of the Abbasid Caliph. It is into this complex and politically fragmented, yet culturally connected, world that a new force arrived from the West, the Crusaders. In 1095, a call to arms in Europe launched a series of military campaigns to reclaim the Holy Land. The arrival of the Frankish knights was a brutal shock to the system. The First Crusade resulted in the capture of Jerusalem, a city holy to Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. The Muslim world, initially disunited, struggled to mount an effective response. It took a new kind of leader to unify them. Enter Salah al-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub, known to the West as Saladin. A Kurd in the service of the Turkish rulers of Syria, Saladin rose through the ranks with his military skill and political acumen. He united Egypt and Syria under his rule, creating a powerful state that could finally challenge the Crusader kingdoms. His goal was clear: the recapture of Jerusalem. Saladin was more than just a brilliant general. He was also known for his chivalry, justice, and piety, qualities that earned him respect even from his enemies. In 1187, at the Battle of Hattin, he achieved a decisive victory, annihilating the Crusader army. Shortly after, Jerusalem was restored to Muslim rule. Saladin's conduct was a stark contrast to the city's initial conquest by the Crusaders decades earlier. He offered generous terms and protected the city's inhabitants. This 600-year period, from the first revelations in Mecca to Saladin's reconquest of Jerusalem, fundamentally reshaped the world. It was a story of faith, conquest, and cultural fusion. It was an era that saw the creation of a global civilization, one that not only connected 3 continents, Let me know in the comments which part of this story you found most interesting. Until next time, stay curious.